Welcome back to Tech City. This is the Doc coming back to you guys today with not a review of this TV, but a review of this little guy over here, the Zalman Z3 Plus, which is a mid-tower ATX size case. Now also this big screen here, I'm going to be getting the overclocking tutorial done for you guys on the AMD FX CPU, so that'll be coming soon as well. I'm also going to be getting a review done of this CPU cooler. But without further ado, let's get on with the review today of the Zalman Z3 Plus case. Today we have the Zalman Z3 Plus edition, which differs from the Z3 in that it has a mirror here and it has USB 3 and a fan switch button. And so today this case is only $40, might add. So today I'm going to be reviewing this case for you guys, telling you all the ins and outs of this case. And also you're probably wondering, the format's a little bit different. Yes, this is going to be my work PC, and I'm also going to quickly showcase this PC at the end of this video for you guys. And the audio might be bad as well, so sorry about that. I'm just recording off my EOS digital camera. So anyway, without further ado, let's go into the review of this case. Now, I'll get the negatives done straight away because there's not many negatives about this case. First of all, first negative is that these clips at the back, once you take them out, you cannot put them back in, so unless you weld them. So that's the first little negative I could only find with this case. The next is the paint here actually differs slightly from the top to the rest of the case. It's a slightly different white, so it may annoy some of those people who are very picky about things. And also the next negative that I could only find is generally the space of the case. It's not that big, however, that can be a positive as well in people who want small cases. I just found with something like a GTX 670, big fan like this, the CPNS 14, and a 650 watt power supply, there wasn't much space to move around, especially with cable management. So that is a little negative for me, but personally, since this case is so small and it only weighs 6 kilograms, I see that as being a positive as well. Ultimately, cable management was fine, and we will take off the side panel soon to show you guys what's inside this rig. The next positive is the next negative as well. The last little negative is that this fan switch button, it literally just doesn't work. I don't really notice a difference much between the fan speeds. When I hit this on and I hit this off, it just doesn't do anything. The fan speeds don't really change, they just stay the same speed. But anyway, let's get on with the positives because there are a lot of positives about this case. Okay, so now moving on to the case itself. There's a lot of positives to talk about with this case. So let's look at firstly the build quality of the case and the aesthetics. This case looks absolutely phenomenal for $40. I really fell in love with the Arctic white on this case, as well as the included 120mm fan at the front, which lights up blue. So the design and the build quality of this case definitely impressed me. Everything on this case, there's no sharp edges at all, so Zalman have really paid attention to making sure that even a person, say with diabetes and thin skin on their hands, won't cut themselves. So I really like that. There's no sharp edges. The build quality is really good. I also like the fact that this case has very easy, I'll show you guys here, very easy support for installing hard drives. So you just put these two clips here on the hard drive and you can slot it in and out. I'm not actually going to do it because the hard drive it's working at the moment. This here comes out with relative ease, but it also at the same time feels solid. So it'll clip in and that'll install your 5.25 drive base. You'll also see here that there's a cutout here for an SSD as well, which really impressed me because this case ultimately is just geared up towards the gamer. We've also got here this cutout here, which is an intuitive design, which will run over for a 2-slot cooler. 2-slot, as you can see here, 2-slot. And one thing to notice is that this motherboard is actually a little bit further down than what's usual. This is the AMD 990FX GD65 motherboard. It's usually a little bit up, so this card would run, an extended card would run absolutely fine. You could fit any graphics card that I can think of would fit in this. A 290X, a 290, a 780 Ti. Would you want to fit 2 of these? I would say no, because this is only a GTX 670 and it's already coming out hitting further than this metal bracket here. So if you want to go with SLI, I would recommend it only for 2 mid-range cards, say 2 GTX 760s or maybe 2 reference 770s, that would be okay. But anything like a 780 or higher probably won't fit. 2 of them won't fit in there, but 1 will definitely fit. And I think ultimately I can recommend this case for any single graphics card configuration setup. Let's have a look now also at what you get with the case. Zalman also include this bracket here, which unfortunately I can't fit due to this crappy. It's sad because this case is really good, but this Zalman cooler is really crap. So I'm going to be reviewing the Zalman cooler for you guys soon. But it comes included with this, which doesn't fit unfortunately. But this is actually a really good design because it will support either 2 graphics cards if you decide to flip it this way. It'll support either 2 graphics cards if you decide to flip it this way, or you can flip it this way and have it fit a CPU cooler and say a GTX 780. So, and you can, I mean, it's just really good. I really like that Zalman have paid attention to detail with everything on this case. Now, as you can see here, deep in the case, you've got cable management cutout options, and ultimately, I mean, it's nothing super fancy. It's kind of, I see this case as being a jack rather than an ace at anything, but ultimately it does the job really well at everything. I mean, it's a solid case, and I just keep reminding myself that this case only costs $40. Now, if we look here in the case, we can see that these fans, people were complaining about the fans, and honestly, I found the fans to be absolutely fine, especially for a case that includes 4 of them for $40. People were complaining that the fans were not strong enough. I found them to be ample fine for a person who wants to mildly overclock their CPU, say to 4.2 gigs or 4.4 on an AMD, and mildly overclock their graphics card, say to 10% overclock on their graphics card. This thing will do the job as well. We've also got the bottom cutouts here for the power supply. Honestly, after using bottom cutout power supplies, I really like the power supply when it's at the bottom. We've also got a dust filter underneath, which you can take out and clean with relative ease. And Zalman also have put really solid rubber feet on this case as well. So the whole build quality of the case, again, impressed me. I'd give it, for $40, I'd give this case a 10 out of 10 for build quality. Now, if you're hearing any noise as well, it's probably because of this CP&S fan. It's actually, again, when I do the review of this cooler, I'll tell you how crap this thing is. But anyway, let's move on now to the front of the case. Okay, so the front of the case includes pretty much mesh, and it's nice black and white theme, and it's got the Zalman logo badged on there as well. Now these metal brackets here, there's 2 of them for 2 5.25 inch drive bays. They come out with relative ease, and you can also put them back in if you want to. So that's actually a really good feature. I like that they've done that. They've also got a cushion there, and ultimately, yeah, I mean, everything. I love this case so far. Let's pull the front of this case off for you guys. So that comes off with relative ease, and I really like the tension of it. It's not too weak, but at the same time, it's not too strong as well. So I really like that Zalman have paid attention to the build quality at the front of the case as well. It feels pretty well built. I mean, everything on this case feels really well built. The fan, as you can see here, it's a nice clean cutout here. If you want to take this fan off and replace it, you can replace this with really easy to replace. You've also, the drive bay installations were a breeze. I could fit this drive bay in and out with no problems at all. And putting it back on is, I mean, it's not too much of an effort. Just bang it on, and it goes back on like that. So it's really good. The design of the front of the case is really good. So now moving on to the top of the case, sorry, we've got the Zalman logo here. We've got the fan switch button, which I found was useless, the reset and the power buttons, and you've got a mic in and an audio headphone out there. You've also got 2 USB 2 slots, and you also have a USB 3 slot there. Now, we also get 2 120mm fans which blow out the top of the case. And I really like these fans, and they really look subtle. You won't notice they're there. And I did mention that the build quality was pretty good at the start. Like even things like this I don't see breaking. So again, they've paid attention to the build quality of this case. It really looks good. I really like it. Now let's move on down to the rear of the case. So moving on to the rear of the case, we've got mesh here, we've got 2 cutouts here, we've also got mesh here, which I found useful for cable management since my power supply is from 2002. Also, we've got here the this impressed me as well. The power supply mounting options. There was like 6 mounting points as well. So if you've got different sort of mounting positions on your power supply, you'll be able to mount this power supply with relative ease. You've also got the screws there. I mean, there's just lots of features on this thing. The cutouts here, I did mention that as a negative. They don't go back in once you cut them out, so be mindful of that. And yeah, everything on the rear looks pretty good. Let's move on now to the back side of the case. There's nothing too fancy here. There's actually a nice bump out here which sort of adds to the style of the case. And I also found it really good in this situation where I had a lot of extra cables. Because my power supply was not modular, I was able to sort of tuck a few cables in here, and it sort of solved my issue of having too little space. So that's on the back side of the case. Let's now move on now to the conclusions of this case, because I'm going to be putting my recommendations on this case, which this case does get a high recommendation. Okay, so let's move on now to the conclusion of this case. Basically this, also I forgot to mention it comes loaded with screws, more than you're ever going to need if you're just doing the average install of a single GPU gaming rig. So lots of screws included. Also, I forgot to mention as well that at the front here you can also put in an extra 120 millimeter fan if you wish to cool your hard drives. So they've paid attention to detail, and in conclusion, I can recommend this case to anyone on a budget who's not going to be going crazy with the overclocks or is not going to be installing water cooling. And honestly, if you've got enough money for water cooling, then come on, you should go buy a really, not a really expensive case, but you should be buying something at least for $100 if you're going water cooling. That's just my opinion, especially if it's custom water loop. But even if you went with a small water cooler, you could replace this fan here and mount a single radiator like a H2O 920 or a 620. You could definitely mount it at the rear here and have it cooling your CPU. So it does have some little options. I just don't see myself mounting a H100 anywhere in this case or anything custom. But for $40, this case is great for someone who just wants that nice looking case that does everything pretty well. So I would call this case the jack of all trades. I usually don't use that title, and but this case just hits that title perfectly well. It's not the best case I've seen for anything, but it's not the worst case I've seen for anything as well. The drives install relatively easy. The build quality is really damn good. Everything's just smooth. The front comes off and on easy. The fans work relatively well. So this case honestly gets a big recommendation, and the perfect person for this case is someone who's, say, using a GTX 760 or an R9 270X, using, say, a 4670K or an i3 or a 8320 or an FX 6300, and you're not going crazy like this CPU cooler here. This thing is really too big. I'd say like an Animax T40 or a Cooler Master 212, then this case will be perfect for you. I would recommend this case with SLI if you were going with, say, two GTX 760s, but that's one thing I would like Zalman maybe to see them do, would be maybe to put two cutouts here, not cutouts, but two options or cutouts here to install 220mm fans covering the graphics cards. If they did that, then this case would be really perfect for SLI as well, in my opinion. So ultimately, they've done a great job with this case for the single GPU, even a GTX 780 I recommend, but again, I'll stress, don't be putting two GTX 780s in this thing. I don't think it'll fit, or two R9 290Xs, but definitely two mid-range cards will fit in this fine, and I ultimately think that this whole rig, this whole case is designed for that gamer who's going to be putting an SSD in, one hard drive, one DVD drive, and it's going to have that long graphics card. And also, one thing to mention as well, you may wish to get a modular power supply if you're going with this case, because it is really small. It's actually not really small, but ultimately I'll say I love the size of this case. It's not, you could actually take this on an airplane with you if you're traveling, and I don't think you'd get pulled up. So it's actually a bit smaller than what I'm used to with cases, and I actually like it. It's sort of like almost as small as a micro ATX case. So it only weighed about 6 kilograms, I think, and so it was relatively light as well. So highly recommended from Zalman. If you guys have anything that I've missed about this rig, then please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you have anything I missed, or if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Okay, so before I go, I will showcase this rig for you guys as well. I said I would do it. And now basically it's got the CPNS 14X cooler, which I don't recommend, but that's cooling this CPU ample fine at 4.4 gigs at about 1.42 volt. And now we've got a GTX 670 in here, Gigabyte Overclock Edition. Really good graphics card. I love this graphics card, and especially I love the WindForce coolers. I think they're really good. We've got a OCZ power supply from 2002. This is a 600 watt power supply. Powers everything, amplifying, and this is why, guys, this is why I recommend OCZ power supplies. Well, I used to, especially, but they're gone bankrupt now, but I used to recommend them because they supplied really damn good power supplies. Hard drive, Western Digital Black, 640 gigabyte. DVD drive, just a standard DVD drive. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, everything here is running ample fine. So I hope you like the build. The cable management's not the best, and that's mainly due to the cables here not being long enough, the CPU cable and PCI Express not being long enough to route through and do proper cable management. But either way, I did think I did a pretty decent job considering the limitations of this power supply. So I hope you enjoyed this review and this quick look at the AMD rig. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And I'm going to say one more time, please give it a thumbs up. Also, did you like the new video format? Would you like to see me maybe get better audio on the camera and give you reviews like this, or do you like reviews where I'm just sitting in my laboratory? So let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. And also, there is the overclocking tutorial coming for you guys very soon for the folks on AMD, and I'm going to be doing another not recommended review, and that's going to be on this CPU cooler. However, the difference between this CPU cooler and the Creative Z was that sometimes, in some circumstances, I did recommend the Creative Z. For instance, if you wanted to get a headphone amp, then I thought the Creative Z was a recommended buy. I just didn't recommend it for someone who just wanted one solution. This, however, I don't recommend in any circumstances. I think the NMAX T40, man, I should have paid that extra $3 because I was regretting it. So this thing, you can even hear it's probably you can hear the noise. The noise that you hear is coming from this CPU fan. Everything else here is really quiet. This CPU cooler is making the noise, and that's pissing me off. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out for now. Bye.